rank. How's that? So this is the inside of the bag. Again, you know, it's just a bag. It's not any big deal here. There's a zipper down it. Unzip it. Cut the hole in it. I have a white card back there just so you can see the size of the hole. I went pretty big on the hole just because I didn't want to crop the video off too much or risk the camera moving around. Again, you don't really need to obsess about this. People just aren't going to look for it. Or at least they didn't used to look for it. So, considerations for building your own bag cam. This is probably the standard disclaimers you see in most talks, right? You may want to seek legal advice. Don't do anything stupid. You might irritate people, so you know if they open up and they find it, it might be an inconvenience. Probably should not make your first bag cam flight an important flight. Like if you're going somewhere to interview, don't make that your premier bag cam flight. And do not record audio. If you have any questions on that, I'm not going to get into the minutia of stereotypish audio recording, but if you look at 18 USC section 2510, it covers all of that, and basically don't go there. Video seems to be fair game, however, and it seems to be fair game across the board with most states. Again, might want to seek legal advice. I'm not an attorney, blah, 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 right? The laws for audio recording, video recording vary dramatically from state to state. That's something else you might want to consider. Hence you might want to seek legal advice. Video. One of the things that I learned, make sure you have usable video you can extract before your first flight. Yeah, I should have checked that. So this DVR thing, it records, it's in some bastardized MPEG-4 format, and there's this like crappy program that runs under Windows. It was written by a bunch of Koreans. And you actually see the Korean if you go into like the resources file. There's more Korean in there than there is English. It only runs at 1024 by 768. I mean, it's a piece of crap. But I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, I'll convert the video with that, no big deal, and then I'll have it in some usable format, great. So took my first flight, get back, I've got like, 50, 60 meg of data on the way out and on the way back, and I run the program, it chugs, it chugs, it chugs. A couple hours later, it like rolls over and dies. I'm like, oh, crap. So for my other presentation, I actually took a camcorder. I'm like videoing off the screen. A little bit ghetto, but you know, it got the job done. I did some work on looking at the file format and actually managed to talk to some people at Swan who make this thing, or put their name on it. Like I said, it's a bunch of Koreans. Some Korean company actually makes it. And once I got through to the guys that are in Australia, they were helpful as much as they could be. They didn't really have much information, but they were trying. And a friend of mine who I used to work with, he works at a different company called Exact Technologies now. They make IP cameras. Helped me out as well, and some of his peers. So I want to thank DSP there and Exact for lending some of their time and expertise there. So you guys ready to see some of the footage and what actually happens back there? Okay. We'll get to that after this slide. Keep this in mind when you watch this. TSA has 43,000 employees. Okay, not too much given the number of airports in the US, right? Their budget for this year, for fiscal 2008, $6.4 billion. Basically $6.5 billion. It was $5 billion the previous year. I think it was higher the year before that. So they've blown ridiculous amounts of money. They still fail all the security tests in their own audits. So just keep that in mind. One of the first flights I took was Indianapolis to DCA, and I got some footage there. I couldn't really convert it just because the file got corrupted, and there really isn't anything interesting going on at Reagan National. You'd think that there would be. There isn't, so I'm just going to skip that and not bore you with like bags bouncing around. I'm from Indianapolis, in case you couldn't figure that out from like my flights. Let's see, that looks decent up there, doesn't it? Can you guys see that okay? Cool. You want to go full screen with it? Let's going to get kind of pixelated, but we'll try it here. Better, worse? Okay. So this is the ticket counter at Indianapolis. And we're waiting, because that's what you do at the ticket counter. There's a lot of waiting at airports. So finally, they grab my luggage. This is an American Airlines flight, in case you can't figure that out. And of course, we wait. I've cut out most of the waiting, because there's like hours of waiting. There's the guy's crotch who picked up the luggage and put it on the conveyor belt. Fortunately, it was close enough we couldn't see any detail on it. So now the bag is sitting on the side, and it's getting ready to go down the conveyor belt back behind the ticket counter. Which brings us to the next one. And off we go. That's going through the little curtain thing that you see there. I'll go ahead and speed this up a little bit because we're just going to be running down conveyor belts here until we get to the TSA. So you can see we're starting to move. It's kind of funny when you speed it up. It's like, it's kind of an interesting ride. Yeah, exactly. Down the chute we go. Yep. And, you know, it almost makes me want to get drunk and, like, see if I can check myself. But I'm sure I'd wake up in the, like, cargo hold and be like, oh, man, this was a really bad idea later on. It's kind of what happens a lot of times when you get really trashed, isn't it? So if you look at this, these are the machines that they actually do the X-ray in, the background scatter machines. And that's what we were diving down off of. And you can see one, if you look off to your left there, that's the ramp that we came down. And you can see another one, the background scatter machines off to your right. And you can sort of see the red shirt of the TSA there. I hate the fact that the AV controls always stays on top, because don't you think you'd want to look at the video more than the controls? Oh well. So this is TSA at Indianapolis. So they grabbed the bag after we dropped down that conveyor belt. A bunch of red shirt guys out there. Working hard. That's what that $6.5 billion gets you right there. I think it gets you the machines more than the people, but they're both just about as effective, I think. And we've just gone through TSA screening. Wasn't that impressive? Yeah. So now they know that I'm not a terrorist, there's not a bomb in the bag, because, you know, they were talking to each other and they decided that. And so now we go down the conveyor belt system. This is more airline part of it here. In fact, that's a baggage cart that they use to take your luggage out to the ramp and get it onto the plane. I think we get a secondary look at the TSA on this one as the bag gets tossed around a little bit. Again, those are the baggage carts they take your luggage out to the plane on. And I think after we get done rotating around this a little bit, you'll see the TSA guys come back into view. We're just going around on a carousel where they pick your luggage off based on what flight it is. That was one of the things that surprised me when I did this and I started looking at the footage. It's just how manual this stuff is. I figured there'd be like, you know, in cargo handling, if you ever looked at UPS or FedEx behind the scenes, they have automatic pushers that push stuff off. That's TSA guy. Kind of looks like, he was working hard there, wasn't he? That's, yeah, there we go. Yep. There's one of the background scatter machines. I can't quite read it, but it's like Envision or something. Is that what it is? When it was dark, when you like, right after you came down the ramp for a second, that's when it went through the machine. It wasn't in there for very long. And there was a lot of stuff in that bag too. That's another picture of it. That's the exit coming out of one, the round hole there. And that's kind of when you can tell on the video, when you do the like, whoosh, that's when you went through there. And TSA hard at work back there. And again, a little bit better picture of the machines. There's just a ton of them there, and they aren't cheap, right? I'm not sure what the price is on those things, but start adding that up. So now we just keep going around the carousel until an airline employee decides that, oh, that bag needs to go on a flight that I'm covering, and they literally just look at the tags and they pull them off. There's no scanning, there's no automation, at least not in Indianapolis. And yeah, exactly. A comment from down here was, look what happened when they tried to automate everything in Denver. For those of you who don't know, complete disaster. They basically had to just destroy all of the baggage stuff and redo it all because it just didn't work. I flew through the new terminal at Reagan National, the new US Airways terminal, which was open several years ago, might even be close to 10 years ago now. I flew through there the first day. They had automated gate announcements and delay announcements. The computer got screwed up, and so it was announcing delays for flights that didn't get delayed. So people are showing up the wrong gate. They're showing up like an hour late for their flight because, you know, announced the flight's delayed. And they're all like, you know, the airline employee, the gate agent's like, the flight left on time. They're like, well, it was announced it was delayed. Gate agent's like, yeah, but it really wasn't. There are a lot of pissed off people there. I got screwed by weather. I spent 12 hours sitting on my butt at National that day. So I got to watch all of it. It was funny. So eventually you get through all the conveyor stuff. I'll back that up for you. Well, I guess you didn't really miss much there. And you make it out onto the ramp, hopefully. And up the little loader we go. I need sound effects for this. You know, I should. What's that? And we end up inside the cargo hold of the plane. So that's what you see out there, you know, when you're waiting at your gate because your flight got delayed or they lost the aircraft or God only knows what they did. Or they just forgot they had a plane sitting there. And I had that happen one time. They forgot to, first flight of the day out of an airport, they forgot to unhanger the aircraft. Yeah. The airline thought it was an ATC delay because apparently somebody told them that. Nobody bothered to call, nobody bothered to check. So an hour later, I'm getting irate because I flew this route all the time. It was in Pittsburgh, and I knew the plane overnighted there. So I asked them, and she said, well, it's an ATC delay. So I'm like, well, that's weird. So I called Tower up. No, there's no ATC delay. So I mentioned this to her again, and all of a sudden she had that oh shit look. So this is coming off of the plane, you know, assuming you made it there, the aircraft made it there, and your luggage, all three of them. Then we get tossed around a little bit. You know, you probably don't want to watch too closely on some of this if you have trouble with motion sickness. I was like watching some of them one time when I was reviewing, and I was like, man, I need to step back away from that a little. It's not as bad on the high quality video, but for some reason, I don't know what it is, it might just be me, on like the lower quality video that I did like the second, third generation stuff, it gets rather disorienting. And this is a flight into O'Hare again, so this is ideally what you want to see at the end of your journey, at least the end of your journey at the airport. So we go around and around, we wind our way through. There was about an hour of going through conveyor belts at O'Hare to get from the plane out to baggage claim. All of a sudden I realized why you have to stand there and wait for about an hour for the bag to show up.